Parents were furious. And I dropped out of school to become a model, which was really weird. Which really pissed my dad off, right? Like, I had this great summer job working at General Mills making Cheerios on the Cheerios line that was paying for my school. And my dad hooked it up, and he was so upset with me. And he's like, "You're gonna be a model? Really? This is it?" And by the way, I didn't even know guys modeled. I thought the Marlboro Man was a real guy. I thought he was a real cowboy. But I took this big risk and quit school. I quit the one thing that I was that was surefire, and went and became a model. And got really bored really fast, and didn't love being a coat hanger. And then I became an actor, which was like a coat hanger that talks. And then I ultimately came full loop and came back around. And by the way, when you talk, you're generally not even speaking your own words. You're speaking somebody else's words and trying to make it sound really real. And then I came full loop around and started looking at technology again. I started getting interested in technology and started getting interested in engineering, and started really getting interested in solving problems. Solving my own problems, and then solving other people's problems, and what the value of that is. And so whether it's technology or philanthropy, or actually even performing or being an actor, I started to make it about solving problems. And I think that's probably the single biggest thing that, as an angel investor, I look for in entrepreneurs, is people who genuinely want to solve a problem, a real problem, a problem that exists not just for themselves, but sometimes just for themselves, and then it sort of turns into this wave effect that solves other people's problems. And sometimes by trying to solve your own problem, you're solving everybody else's problems. Because generally, if you want to affect the world, you have to change yourself first. Everybody tries to go out and change the world by changing other people and other things. But the real way to do it is by changing yourself. And sometimes making those really uncomfortable choices to go up against everyone in your life that you look up to, and take that risk to go be a model. Or go do this thing that nobody else is doing. So I'm a storyteller by trade, so I thought I'd share a story with you, as opposed to giving some piece of advice, because you're all probably a lot more intelligent than I am. So I see a lot of entrepreneurs that come in, and they have a really great idea to solve something. And I start to talk to them, I start to find out who they are and what they're about. And they sort of jump from the problem that they're solving to who they're going to be, or what they're going to get by solving the problem. And it's I have this red flag in my pocket that goes up. And I'm like, wow, that guy wants to be Mark Zuckerberg. That guy wants to be Pincus. That guy wants to be Steve Jobs. Or that guy just is got this idea, and he's like, yeah, and the market cap is this, and it's this, and we're going to make this much money, and it's going to be $1 billion company. And then I have this switch in my head that just starts to shut off really slowly when I hear this. Because they're jumping to the effect. And if you want to be a real entrepreneur, you have to be the cause. You have to be the creator of somebody else's new reality, which eliminates time, space, motion, pain, friction. That's what engineering is. And it was the first thing that I learned as an engineering student was, scientists, look at problems, and they, find out about problems, and engineers solve them. And it's the one thing that really, really stuck with me. And those guys that want to be Mark Zuckerberg, or girls that want to be the next big entrepreneur, that not the next big, but the one that already exists. If you want to be Mark Zuckerberg, the best you're ever going to be is second place. Because Mark Zuckerberg will always be a better Mark Zuckerberg than you. And if your chase is for $1 billion company, you may not make $1. So I wanted to tell the story about a guy named Carl Fisher. How many people here know who Carl Fisher is? A couple people? it's interesting. Only a couple people know who this guy is, and after you hear the story, you're gonna wonder, wow, how do I not know who this guy is? And when I heard this story, Carl Fisher was one of the greatest marketers in American history. As a young kid, Carl Fisher couldn't see very well. His eyesight was pretty poor, and he would go to school and he would sit in the back of the class, or he would sit in the front of the class trying to see, but he was still a poor student. He didn't do well. The teacher moved him to the back of the class, right? So when he was a young kid, he quit school because there was nothing really there for him. He couldn't even see the damn blackboard. So he was like, fuck it, I'm out of here, right? He bails. So then Carl gets this idea, and he's like, he's going to sell candy on the train. Right? There's these candy boys, and they walk down the aisle with these boxes, and they sell candy. And so Carl gets this idea, but Carl's no ordinary Carl. Carl is an amazing marketer. And so what he does is he gets a T-shirt, and on the T-shirt, he pins this print of a naked lady. And he has his schmuck, whatever you call it, Jewish schmuck. It's schmuck in Jewish. It's Shabbat, so I can say schmuck. He has a schmuck, and he walks down the aisle with his candy box, and as he passes these businessmen, he goes like this, and keeps walking. And they're like, hey, kid, get back here. What was that? And Carl says, okay, they were like, what's on that, what do you got underneath there? And he said, yeah, I'll show you what's underneath there. Just buy some candy. Phenomenal marketing tactic, right? Like, I'm going to show you a little bit of the juice, and then I'm going to shut it off, and then once you buy this thing, I'm going to give you the full product, right? And so Carl makes a lot of money, because these guys really want to see naked pictures. We all know that you want women on your platform early, hot ones first, and then everybody comes. Carl knew this way back in the day. So he makes a lot of money, and then he gets this idea he wants to sell bicycles, right? So Carl Fisher, he sees all these bicycles. This is back late 1800s. He sees all these bicycles in Europe, and he's thinking, this is going to explode in the United States. And so he opens up a bicycle shop. And nobody comes. Nobody's buying bicycles. And so he goes and he gets this guy that could fit. He puts a wire from one building to the next building. And he gets a guy that knows how to, tightrope on the bicycle, and people come and they're like, wow, this is amazing. And he finds some guy that can do a trick on a bicycle, and people start coming and buying bicycles. And so he starts to sell these bicycles and sell these bicycles. And then the automobile starts to boom. And he's like, wow, this is the future. Now you gotta remember, Carl can't see so well, but he gets a car with all his money, and he loves it. And he's driving this car, blind as a bat, and he loves the speed of this thing, and the agility and the control that he has. And so he opens up a car shop, and he was like he opened up basically the first automotive dealership in the world. And so he starts selling these cars and making a lot of money. And it sells his bike shop, obviously, in order to do the down payment. It takes this bigger risk with cars, and of course people start buying cars, and it's the first automobile dealership in the United States. And then he starts thinking to himself, he's like seeing all these people driving cars, and he thinks, someday these people are going to want to drive these cars at night. And so he invents the headlight. And he sells the headlight, and he makes a lot of money. And so now he's a millionaire back at the turn of the century. And he's got all this money, and he's doing extremely well for himself. And he goes to, I think he was in Minneapolis. And he's trying to sell cars and sell this headlight. So he hooks this car up to a hot air balloon, and he's flying over the city in Minneapolis. And trying to sell these cars and promote his brand, promote what he has. And he sees this girl down in the crowd below. Young girl, beautiful girl. And he says, land the balloon. I have to go and meet this girl. So he meets the girl, and they fall in love. And she's like, you've worked so hard. You have all this money. Why do you keep working? What are you trying to do? And Carl's like, I just see things. He was blind as a bat, but he had vision. And he's like, I just see these things, and I have to make them happen. And she's like, well, you should just really settle down and have a family and do the. He's like, yeah, but it's this is what I want to do. And he's like, well, I'm just going to do one more thing, and then I'll stop. And so he goes to Indianapolis, and he has this idea that these people love cars. He's obsessed with cars. He's like, someday, he's like, I think people will want to race these cars. They're already racing them. So he's going to make this track. And people are going to race these cars. So he invents the Indy 500. He builds the Brickyard. And people are like, Carl, you're crazy. Nobody's gonna watch cars go around in a circle. This is insane. And he says, not only will they come and watch, they'll pay $1. And so he starts to charge people. He invents the Indy 500. He invents the Brickyard. And the first race, like 6 people die, right? Because people, really funny, that guy just died, guys. Slow it down. No, too soon. That's too soon? Okay. So anyway, like 6 people die in the first race, right? Because it's the brick and people are flying off and whatever. And so it was a huge disaster. But then he stays at it, and he stays at it, because even though he failed, he knew that he could change it. They change the surface, and people start to come, and it actually starts to grow, and it builds into the Indy 500 as it is. His wife is like, okay, Carl, this is a debacle. Let's just stop doing these things. Let's go on vacation. So he takes him on vacation. It's around like 1910. They go down to Florida, which at the time was like this, there was a couple like little resorty areas, but it was kind of a mosquito-infested environment. But they're there and they're on vacation. He sees this bridge, like going out into the distance, and he's like, "What the hell is that?" And the wife's like, "Carl, don't go, just relax." And he's like, "No, I just want to find out what's going on with this thing, right?" So he goes and he hunts down the guy, and he finds out this guy's trying to build the largest bridge in the world. And Carl's like, "Well, what's on the other side?" And the guy's like, "Well, nothing. It's just like a swamp area. It's not really." And so Carl says, "Well, take me over there." So they go over, and he starts looking around, and he sees, and he's surveying the land. He's like, "Wait a second." And he sort of gets down on his hands and knees, and he's like looking and like drawing a little thing. And the guy's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I think we could backfill all this and turn it into like a giant resort place." And the guy's like, "Well, if you want to do it, you can do it. I'm not getting involved." And he's like, "Well, yeah, but you want people to come to for your bridge, right?" Because the guy couldn't get money. He's like, "I'll help you finish the bridge. I want the land on the other side." The guy's like, "Okay." So he starts backfilling, builds up these giant casinos. This is his whole thing. It's Miami Beach. He's building Miami Beach, right? And he was Carl's otherwise known as like Mr. Miami because of this. And he fills it in, and he builds all these casinos in this huge area, there's a whole thing, and nobody comes. And he's got this giant infrastructure now, casinos and stores and houses, and nobody comes. And he's like, "Oh man, I got to do something." So he gets like an elephant, right? Like people in America hadn't seen an elephant, but it's an elephant, people will come see the elephant. He tries to tell people. He goes to Congress and petitions for a highway from the north coming south. And they build the Dixieland. He had enough money at the time where he could convince them to build the Dixieland Highway from all the way up north, all the way down to Miami. And nobody comes. And he's like, "This is a nightmare," right? He's like dumped everything he had, all the money from the headlight into this thing, and nobody comes. And so he kidnaps the President of the United States. And he takes the President of the United States out into this place and gets photographs of him there. He was friends with him, so he sort of kidnapped him. It's a better story if he actually kidnapped him, but I made that part up. So he takes the President of the United States, and he takes these pictures of him out on this island, and people start to come, one by one by one, and it's the biggest land boom in American history. And people are literally setting up card tables in their front lawn, selling land, and it's going, and it's going. It's like the internet right now. It's just happening, and everybody's coming, and they're coming, and they're coming, and they're selling, and the prices are going up, and Carl's making millions. He makes $100 million before 1920. And then he gets a brilliant idea. Montauk, Miami of the North. And he dumps it all into Montauk. Everything he's got goes into Montauk. And he's building it up. His wife is furious. By the way, she adopted a baby he didn't even know about. There's a whole nightmare story. Carl started drinking a lot. He builds up Montauk. The stock market crashes. He loses everything. Completely wiped out. Carl Fisher died in a trailer home outside of Miami. And about a week before he died, somebody took him up in a blimp, and they took him over Miami, and he was able to see what he had built. But that's all he had. He didn't have a dime. He didn't have a penny. Hardly anyone would remember his name. But he gave that to all of those people. And he knew that no one could ever take that away from him. He could never lose that. He might not have been able to see, but he had the vision to know that it wasn't about his name or somebody remembering him. And it wasn't about the $1 billion. It was about uncovering that which was concealed. The swampland, the corners of the room, the way people can exchange, the way people can connect with each other, the way that a database can be built, the way it's about uncovering, it's about Airbnb changing the hotel industry. It's about disrupting markets boldly in a way that you can leave that behind for everybody else to have and share. And Carl Fisher knew that. So you might not remember his name, but you use his product every day. You might have visited his town. And the only thing I can impart upon young entrepreneurs is it's not about being like somebody else. It's not about the $1 billion. It's about how you can affect other people's lives, enrich them, improve them, how you can eliminate the space between people, how you can eliminate pain and friction, and how you can uncover that which one day was just a big just a big swampland. So that's my story, and I don't know how I'm doing on time. I'm happy to answer some questions. I don't know anything else about Carl Fisher, so don't ask me. That was like pretty detailed. I know about the guy.